Have you ever wondered how they get those cute little thumb holes into the cuffs of some of your favorite tops? Well, I'm gonna show you today. It's really simple and it only takes a few minutes. Let's get into it. The first thing we need to do is take this piece of fabric and make sure that your width is going this way. And the reason for that is because when we fold it in half, this is going to be how your wrist lays on the fabric when it's finished. So you want your stretch going across your wrist. So this is the length and this is the width. This is important. For my wrist, I'm comfortable with a 10 by 10 inch square because I like a longer wrist cuff, but if you want a shorter wrist cuff, you can shorten it this way. If you want a tighter wrist cuff, you can shorten it this way just a little bit. Step one, let's find the center of our square. Now that we've folded it in half, this is a 10-inch square, so at the 5-inch mark, I'm gonna put a little dot. From here, I want to go 1/2 inch to the right and mark it with a line, and 1/2 inch to the left and mark it with another line. These are gonna be your sewing spots that we are marking right now. The next step is to go to the ends and we're gonna come in, I'm gonna come in 1.5 inches. You can come in as far as you want. This measurement right here is how far up your thumb hole is going to start on the cuff. So I like to do it a little bit further in. You can change this measurement as you're comfortable. So I did 1.5 inches in and a 1 inch centered mark in the middle. To make this easier, I've shown you right here with these purple lines exactly where I'm going to be sewing. So I'm gonna be sewing on the ends and in the middle, but I'm skipping this middle part because that's gonna be where your thumbs go. I'm gonna sew these little sections with a 1/2 inch seam allowance and a basic straight stitch. Start with a back stitch and then slowly work your way towards that mark that you made. And back stitch at the end. Do this for all 3 sections. The next step, once you've sewn your 3 sections, is to open up that seam and press it down. You can use your fingers or an iron, or you can use the seam roller for this part of the project. Just make sure it's nice and flat. Now we're going to take the left side with this seam open and fold it to the right. And what this is going to do is sandwich this part of your wrist cuff into the fabric because we don't want to sew this middle section. We only want to sew through these 2 layers. And I'm going to sew between these 2 stitch lines. So let's go back to the machine and I'll show you how to do that. For this seam, I don't want to hit this fabric that's folded under, so I'm going to do this just a hair short of 1/2 inch, just a little bit over from my original line. I'm starting right at the beginning of this line and I'm going to sew to this line. Start with a back stitch and then do a straight stitch the whole way down. It's helpful to keep your fingers right on this fabric so you can feel the part that's inside the seam that you don't want to be sewing. Take your time on this. So now you've got this line right here, and the next step is to take your cuff and turn it the other direction, because now we're gonna sew the other side of our thumb hole. So repeat the same process exactly as you did it before, making sure that these are stuck way down into your fabric so they don't get sewn. Load it back in and make sure that you start with a back stitch. Do it just a hair away from where you stitched your first set of stitches. Once you've completed those 2 steps where you sew across this empty space, it's time to turn your thumb hole cuff out and see how you did. Let's see. So reach in there, turn it right side out, zhush it around a little bit, and look at that. You made a thumb hole cuff. Kiss your brain. Nice and comfy, ready to go onto a shirt.